You are listening to the Fairways and Fundraising podcast, powered by Golf Event Planning, discussing charity fundraising and successful golf outings, along with tips and tricks of the trade. Now here's your host, Larry Battaglia.
Hello, and welcome to Fairways and Fundraising, powered by Golf Event Planning. I'm your host, Larry Battaglia. This is episode number 19, and today we are talking with a good friend of mine for the last few years now, a great guy, PGA member. So we love to hear some of his insight on being a golf professional in the New Jersey, New York section of the PGA. Also sales representative for Signature Golf and founder of Greenside Experiences, Andy Bulizak. How you doing, Andy?
I am doing well. How about yourself, Larry?
Doing all right. Not too bad. Getting through this quarantine. Unfortunately, we haven't, you and I haven't done this. We've been trying to get together and do this podcast episode. Quarantine now is actually put us in a position where we actually have the time to sit down and hammer out some great content for our listeners. But how you making out with the quarantine?
Yeah, we just needed an entire pandemic to force us to do it.
That is the way the golf business is, you know all about it.
We're doing all right. Just keeping busy, just like you and I were talking about the last time we spoke. Just doing anything you can to keep yourself active and productive, and hopefully not drinking too much and being too big of a loser during it. So yeah, just keeping busy, trying to keep working, trying to make sales where I can, and keep in contact with my clients and getting a lot of work done around the house. So we're keeping busy.
That is the one good thing, right? It's like doing household chores that maybe you've put off. It always seems like up here in the Northeast, where we have such a dormant winter, that all of a sudden the weather starts getting nicer, and bam, it's full blown from March through October that golf starts coming at us fast and fierce. It's a great business, a business that we love. But now in the event space, I work a lot with you with a lot of these trip experiences, but you have a great story to tell, being a PGA member and coming up through the ranks in the golf business as a assistant golf professional. Why don't we talk a little bit about your experience, how you got into the golf business, and your experience as a golf professional?
Yeah, basically it boils down to, I was in high school and they asked me, what do you want to, they ask this to everybody, what do you want to do? What do you want to go to college for? What do you want to do? And I was like, I have no idea, but I'm pretty good at golf. So
I was the same way.
Yeah, basically it was like, well, I like golf and I'm good at it. So let's just see where that goes. So, I went to SUNY Delhi, which is in upstate New York. I'm from upstate New York. It's not accredited by the PGA. So basically I got a business degree with a concentration in golf, and then had to work through the PGA Apprentice Program to get my certification. So I started working at a bunch of clubs, and, my major stay was at Sleepy Hollow Country Club in Westchester, which if a lot of your listeners are from the metropolitan New York City area, they'll probably know that club. It's an unbelievable place. So I was there for about 5 years as an assistant, and I was like an intern at first, and then worked my way up to one of the head assistants. The business itself, has taken me in a lot of different directions, as you alluded to at the beginning. So after that, after my time at Sleepy Hollow, I went down, spent a year at Morris County Golf Club here in New Jersey. And then I got into the sales side of things, which is where, you and I met, bouncing around. But I think I found, my true calling. I enjoy this. I always wanted to get into the sales side. I used to see like reps coming in the golf shop. I just always wanted to do that. I did a majority of the buying at Sleepy Hollow for the golf shop. So seeing that side of it, I always wanted to get into the sales side. It just was kind of waiting until the right time. So that's where we're at now.
Probably one thing that I miss the most, I would have to say, is I used to love when the sales reps would come in and, we'd sit down, we'd look at apparel, or we'd look at the latest equipment that's out there on the market, doing demo days at the driving range with the members and selling golf clubs. And that was probably my favorite part of the business when I was an assistant. There's just that I don't know, there's that special relationship that you have with the sales representative. But for you now, as a sales rep for both Signature Golf and now your Greenside Experiences, and you also rep some lines like Stitch Golf, which we're going to get into in a little while. You're a PGA member, and that's a very unique qualification that most sales representatives don't have. And I think that gives you sort of an insider look into the fraternity of the golf professional.
Yeah, for sure. I became a member in 2016 and then got into the sales side in 2017. So I've seen and actually have shared this with people that I think being a PGA member has helped me more so as a sales rep than it probably did when I was actually working at country clubs. And, the main reason is I'm selling to golf professionals. So me being one and have been in their shoes and have worked at country clubs, and I just understand what they're going through a lot more and can talk that talk with them. I think they don't really see me as a salesperson as much. And in the golf business especially, and I'm sure it's this way in every business, but in the golf business especially, it's all about relationships and who you know. And that's how I was. I mean, at Sleepy Hollow, there were times when if I was between two vendors, I would sometimes just go with, I like the rep better. And that's how business works. You do business with people you like and people you can relate to. And so it's really helpful in the sense that I can come in and I can say, hey, I understand what you're going through. Here's how I can help you. And be able to see them at section events. And, I'm a member of the New Jersey PGA, so I see them at all the meetings and all of the different charity, like the New Jersey Golf Foundation, which a lot of New Jersey PGA members are a part of. I'm part of that as well. And I play on the New Jersey PGA hockey team, which I'm playing with basically head pros from all over. So all these little things that if you weren't a PGA member, you really wouldn't, number one, have access to, but you've kind of just bridged that gap where now you have that relatability. So it's at the end of the day, I mean, obviously the product you have to have has got to be good, but people in the golf business are going to do business with people that they like and they can relate to, especially. So it's huge for sure. I've actually done a lot of funny things with it, and I'll tell you this one because this was a good one. My first year, and this is a great example, but my first year as a sales rep, I was hurting financially, just like probably anybody is in their first year in sales. And I actually would offer to golf pros, I would say, hey, do you need help? Do you have your member guest coming up and you're shorthanded? Or do you have an outing one Monday and your entire staff is playing in a section event and you need somebody? Because I know what I'm doing. I've done it for a long time. So it was kind of like a way for me to make a few extra dollars, but also to just get my foot in the door at clubs and with different pros. And it actually worked pretty well. I have a couple stints where I worked at country clubs for like one day. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it, but it just certainly bridges that gap so much easier.
That's a great idea. Very smart on your part. And yeah, there is that relationship and communication factor that is so crucial in a sales role, but especially in the golf business. And you mentioned about what the golf pro is going through. Your average golfer that might be listening to this, they may not understand the full responsibility of a golf professional and also the challenges that they face in trying to get their PGA status and how long it takes and what you have to do. Some people just think that you just play golf for a living, which is so far from the truth. Detail that to us. I mean, how difficult was it for you to get your PGA membership?
Yeah, this totally goes back to exactly what you and I talked about in the very beginning, how we said, oh, I'm pretty good at golf. I'll just go do that. That's honestly what I thought. I was like, this is going to be great. I'm just going to like waltz in, get a job, and play golf all day. Like that in my head was what I was really hoping.
Yeah, no doubt.
It was very, and it's just like anything, it's always, there's always more to it than what you think. But yeah, to become a golf pro, so there's two ways to do it. One way, you go to a PGA accredited college and you basically do all the PGA work while you're in school. So if you've completed all the way you're supposed to, you would essentially become a PGA member when you graduate. I had to go through it in the PGA Apprentice Program. So basically it took me 4 years, and it takes, I know people who it's taken 8 years or more to do.
Yeah, 4 years is probably the shortest that you could go and get all the credits and take all the courses and get it done.
Yeah, I know some people have done it in 2 or 3 years, but they basically like dedicated their whole life to it, which I probably could have. But I was like 22 years old. I had other things going on.
In addition to the courses, you got to pass a playing test.
Correct. So you have to. So this is basically the guidelines. You have to. Number one, you need to be working at a golf facility while you're in the apprentice program. So you can't be at home all day doing this. You actually have to be employed at a golf facility. So you're employed at a golf facility. So, for me, let's just say I was at Sleepy Hollow, which is when I did a majority of the work. But you're already working 60, 70 hours a week, and then you're trying to complete this bookwork. So it's tough. But there's 3 levels. There's actually a pre-level, which the pre-level is pretty easy. It's like a background test, and it's nothing too much. And then you go into 3 levels. Each level has 4 or 5 different courses. You actually fly down to Florida, which it might be Texas now because they switched headquarters, but that's for a different discussion. At the time, at least, I was flying to Port St. Lucie in Florida, and you actually sat through classes for a week. And when you were done down there, they would open up the online portal. You would have to do all this book work and get it approved. Once it got approved, you had to take a test on every course at a testing center, and you had to get a certain score for each. Once you pass all those tests, you were then through that level. They weren't like easy. There was a lot of work, and you had to film yourself like giving lessons, and it was pretty extensive
and many
stuff.
things that you've never done before in your life. Like you said, I'm great at golf. I'm gonna give this a shot. And then you're taking these courses and you are working at a country club, but maybe you haven't given a lesson yet, or maybe you haven't re-gripped a golf club yet. Back in the day, I was re-gripping clubs, trying to figure out what I needed to do to get through the program. It was hard.
People don't really understand this, but you have to be able to play the game well. You have to be able to teach it. You have to be able to do club repair. You have to be able to handle all the golf cart stuff. You have to be able to handle the range, a golf shop, merchandising. We had to take a food and bev class because sometimes as the golf pro, I remember making mixed drinks and driving them out to people. So,
I didn't take that class, man. I would have passed that one.
So I actually had to take that class in college. It was the greatest class in the world. You got to drink basically during the class. But this is what I always told people about being a golf pro at a country club is, let's say you're working in New York City and you have 2 bosses, right? If you work at a country club, you have 300 to 500 bosses, because most cases, unless it's a privately owned club and you're getting paid by like one owner, if it's a member owned club, which is what most of the clubs are, you're essentially getting paid by the members. So you could have 500 bosses. And a lot of it's politics. You gotta make everybody happy. You have to learn to be able to talk to literally everybody and make them happy. And it's difficult to do, but you learn that. So it's a different atmosphere for sure. But back to what you were saying. So along with those levels, so you have to pass all 3 levels, all 3 tests. You do have to pass a playing test as well. So you have to pass, depending on the course, because each course is obviously rated differently. You have to shoot a certain score. Mine, I did it in college, and I had to shoot 2 rounds of 77 or better. So it had to aggregate to, I think, 154 for 36 holes. So it didn't matter. You could shoot a 60 and a 90 as long as it added up to 154 or less for 36 holes. You passed.
Did you do it in one tournament, or like when I passed my playing test, I did it in 2 separate tournaments as long as they were within 7 days apart?
I did it all in one day, and I passed it actually on the number. I was cruising. I was 20-something holes in. I was doing just fine. I was playing really well, and then I had one hole where I pull hooked one into the woods, and I found the ball and I tried whacking it out of the woods. My caddy and I moved a tree branch to even get to my ball, and I ended up getting up and down for like an 8.
Tons of pressure.
And then I had to
understand.
Then I had to actually play well for the rest of the round, and I had to par the last hole to pass in the number, and I did, and I was like, oh lordy. But so yeah, it's a lot of work to become a PGA member, and it's not only a lot of work, but people typically don't understand how much work they actually do at a country club, and it's a lot. You wear a lot of hats. Let's put it that way. Wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Sun up to sundown, I don't miss those long days, and I definitely respect all the golf professionals at the country clubs and public golf courses. I mean, it's a close knit fraternity, and one that the credentials are just second to none. And you were at Sleepy Hollow. What a great place that is, huh? I mean, what were the days like at Sleepy Hollow, huh? I've only been to the property one time for a meeting. That is just a special, special place.
Yeah, Sleepy was it was awesome. And it's funny because I remember when I was in college and you had to try to get internships and apply to places. And I just remember thinking, God, I would love to work there. And the fact that I got to was really quite special. It's a great membership, probably the nicest people you'll ever meet. The clubhouse is unbelievable. It's a Vanderbilt mansion. They have an equestrian program, so there's horses walking around. Property's huge. There's 27 holes. There's a Titleist regional club fitting center. There's a lot going on there. It's just, and the golf courses, it's a top 100 now. They have the views of the Hudson River. It's awesome. It was great. And I actually lived on property. I actually lived next to the horse stables, which sounds really bad, but like it really wasn't. Like I didn't smell anything. Like people did, but I just didn't. I was used to it. But I'd wake up in the morning, I'd be making coffee, and like a horse would just walk by my window, and I would walk to work. It was great. It was great.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you have some great stories there. Maybe that's for another day. But playing a golf course like Sleepy Hollow, I mean, how difficult is that track?
They made it harder. Gil Hans came in and did a ton of work on it to get it into the top 100, and it's a little bit difficult now. But it's not a super long course. It's like 69 from the tips, and you can spray it for the most part. You can be a little wild off the tee. There's really only a couple holes where you get penalized really badly off the tee, but around the greens, it's a C.B. Macdonald design. So it's that old school style. Around the greens, it's brutal. Like if you got to be good with your irons. If you miss greens, getting up and down is almost impossible sometimes because the greens are so crazy undulated, and there's holes where you need to play, a chip shot 20 yards away from the pin, let it roll down to the pin. And
okay, you lost me around the greens. I mean, you had me at wild off the tee. I got that game, but around the greens, totally lost me.
If you're hitting greens, you're going to be okay. It's one of those courses that it's sneaky, really sneaky. Like I've had rounds where I'm like, how did I shoot what I shot? Like I didn't think I played that bad, because you're not in like a ton of trouble. It's just like, it just slowly eats away at you. Like you're just kind of like you can get on bogey trains there so easily because you just don't get up and down, or you three putt. It's one of those, it's a tough little course, but if you're hitting it, if you're striking it some fairly well, you can survive it pretty well.
Well, maybe someday we'll get out there together, and that would be fun, especially when we get out of this pandemic. I think a lot of people are just going to want to get out and golf and just get outside and get together again and just kind of do the things that they love to do. And golf is one of those addicting games that you can't stay away from it very long. Now, fast forward for you, I want to get into this, is your travel business. So you leave Sleepy Hollow, you go to Morris County for a year. Now you're doing travel trips. I want to talk about Signature Golf and your business, Greenside Experiences, and how the travel program has evolved. I know you went on a incredible trip last year, which we're going to talk about, but let's talk about your travel business prior to the pandemic.
Yeah. Obviously the pandemic is really, well, it hurts everybody, but it hurts the travel business a ton because you ain't going anywhere. But I started working for Signature Golf a couple years ago, and they're a luxury golf travel company. If you're looking to go to Scotland, England, Ireland, or domestically, we have a South Africa trip. They're trips that are done right. There's ways out there to get really cheap trips, but they're not going to be done right. These are the ones where you're in luxury vehicles with your favorite alcohol on board and
bucket list type trips.
Yeah, exactly. It's very down to the detail types of trips. So I did get to go over there last year. We did a tour. It was about 14 days, and we started up in the Scottish Highlands, went down to St. Andrews and Edinburgh, and then went west to Western Scotland to like Troon, Prestwick, Turnberry. Then we took a ferry over to Northern Ireland, went and saw Royal County Down and Portrush, which at that time was, the Open was being played there that year. And then went down into Southwest Ireland and kind of hit all those places. And it was really, really cool. And, it gives you a really good appreciation of golf when you get to go to these other places. And there's just so much good golf everywhere. And then I got to go to Portugal last year too. And I mean, they had unbelievable golf courses. And I was like, I wouldn't even think to go to Portugal to play golf. You can literally go anywhere and take a golf trip. So it's an interesting business. And right now, obviously, it isn't really a thing, but the general consensus is when the pandemic finally does break and there's vaccines out there, the travel business is going to be like unbelievably booming because people are just going to be like, get me the hell out of my house. I got to go somewhere. I got to do something. So it might be a year or two away from getting to that point, but it's going to come back with a vengeance at some point. So I was working with Signature Golf, and then I started my own company. I had started to develop a lot of charity clients because I would sell golf trips essentially to the charities for raffles, for auctions.
A lot of stuff that we're doing together.
Right. And that's how you and I met. And so we started working in that degree. And then so I started my own business where I was focusing primarily with charities and fundraising. And I expanded the catalog of trips to not just golf trips, but to experiences all over the world, domestically, you name it, basically. So it could be private estates, private villas where you're staying for a week. It could be golf trips. It could be just going to see Celine Dion in Las Vegas. That's a terrible example, but it is an example. So
that wouldn't be on my bucket list.
No,
I could tell you.
It wouldn't be a high seller for me, but it is an option. So it's really grown. And then I got into the memorabilia side a little bit as well. And then the clothing part of it, gifts and giveaways. And it's kind of just grown from people's requests. And it really started as something where in my head, I thought, well, I could help myself on taxes. That was the first thought. And two, if I can make a few bucks and help some charities raise some money, great. Why not? I didn't start it thinking it was going to be what it is. And it really has turned into a great little business. And it's just me. And I've gotten it to the point where I think up until the pandemic hit, I was up to almost like $80,000 raised for charities. And I only started the company in June of 2018. It's been a fun little side project that's really took over into something more than that. And it's nice because it ties into what I sell as well, because I'm able to kind of double dip with that. So along with working with golf professionals with golf travel, I work with events and charities and, event planners like yourself to grow the business along from just people going and taking luxury trips, but also finding ways to help charities raise money with those trips.
Yeah, working with these charities, very rewarding, knowing that they are, raising more money in something that you're offering. This keeps you on your toes. I mean, there's so many great trips that you have. We'll have Andy's links in the show notes in case anybody's interested in checking out some of his great trips or contacting Andy for any future getaways. We hope you like this episode. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. We appreciate it. We're talking with Andy Bulizak, PGA member and sales representative for Signature Golf and founder of Greenside Experiences, as well as, Andy, you rep a few other companies like Stitch Golf. What is Stitch Golf?
Yeah, this was this was probably the worst timing ever. I actually went to the headquarters for Stitch after they reached out to me to become a sales rep for them. And I got back on like March, I think 11th. And I think the 12th and 13th of March was when like the economy hit and like, everyone was like freaking out and sports were canceling. So I haven't really gotten on the road as much as I'd like to, but I did start, as I said, about a month ago, really started selling for Stitch Golf. Stitch Golf is a golf apparel, gear, golf bags, head covers, very, very high-end golf products that are primarily sold at country clubs. They started as a head cover company. I remember buying from them when I was at Sleepy Hollow, and they've really grown into they're a very cool, hip, awesome company. Their polos are unbelievable. they have like a great line of products and it fits my style. I've always really liked their products, and you got to like what you sell, right? So it's a really cool, hip company that's growing. You never want to start selling for a company that you think is going the other way. They're a company that's going in the right direction, and they've expanded and grown each year. They're in the best country clubs. I mean, we're in Pine Valley. You basically name it. I think we're probably in almost all the top 100 golf clubs. So it's a very high-end product that's at a lot of big country clubs. So I'm their rep now, account manager, if you will, for the entire state of New Jersey. So from Bergen County all the way to Cape May and Philly. So Eastern PA, Philly, out to about Harrisburg. And right now I'm covering the Met section as well. So I'm covering, Westchester, New York, Long Island, until I think they find a permanent person. But now with everything going on, who knows when that'll be. So I'm covering a lot of territories. It's a nice complement to what I do because I can use a lot of their products for gifts and favors at events, but also it gets me into more golf shops to help the travel business. So it's the whole goal was to have these three things, but have them all tie in so that it all makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense to me. But I'll tell you that that'll keep you busy. Plenty going on when the season kicks in once we're out of this pandemic.
Well, I didn't mention this earlier, but you know this. I'm expecting my first child in, what is it now? End of April. We're expecting July 2nd is when we're due.
Wow, congratulations. That's my wife's birthday is July 2nd. Look at that.
There you go. Well, wait, there might be an addition that day. So you got to do what you got to do to make a few extra bucks around here, especially right now.
And it's relationships like these, you and I, that, makes us stronger. We love offering your trips to a lot of our charity clients for their raffle, for their auction. I've heard nothing but great things from the winners that win any of these trips. Kiwa Island, Pinehurst, you name it. Some great golf destinations, the abroad trips that you spoke about earlier, Scotland, Ireland, Portugal. Really cool. You got a Tuscany trip. It doesn't have to only be just golf. You alluded to that briefly earlier, right? I mean, you have a lot of other great experiences too.
I just started telling people, where do you want to go? It got to the point where it was impossible to advertise everything because there was just so many options. So I'd just be like, where do you want to go? Let's just make this easy. And yeah, it's great for events, especially for like what you do, because it's something different. I mean, if you're going, and this better than anybody, your events are incredible. And if you have an event that's been going on for 20 years, you can't do the same thing for 20 years. People are they're going to figure it out.
Always have new ideas, shake it up a little.
So I've done everything. I've had events where doing hit the green, and if they hit the green, they get a raffle ticket, and all those raffle tickets go towards winning a trip or something. And that's awesome. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? There's so many different ways to do it, and you know that better than anybody. And just adding trips and experiences and things like that, it's just something different. So yeah, we've had a lot of success with it, and hopefully everything kind of comes back to normal here soon.
Yeah, if you have a charity golf event and you're interested in any of these trips, again, in the show notes, we'll have all of Andy's links that you can contact him, or you can contact me directly, and we'll coordinate with Andy and set something up. Andy, listen, I know we have a tight schedule. I know you have to get going, but I just wanted to say thanks very much for coming on, providing some great content here today for our listeners as we're going through this pandemic, just trying to keep constant distraction whenever we can, just from the reality of the situation that we're dealing with right now. But soon we'll be out of this, I hope. And you and I will be getting back out on the golf course and doing a lot of great things together to help some great organizations raise a lot of money with these trips and some of these giveaways that you've been talking about.
For sure. Yeah, thanks for having me, and keep yourself sane. We'll talk very soon.
Definitely. Stay safe and healthy and positive. Ciao, ciao for now.
Thank you for listening to the Fairways in Fundraising podcast, powered by Golf Event Planning. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and please remember to subscribe, rate, and review.